So as a business owner, especially a business owner in the food industry, staff is by far the most important thing that I have to worry about in a day. In fact, I care more about the staff to some degree than I do about the product, because good staff can make up for bad product, but bad staff can never do anything with good product. So attracting staff is really, really key for me. And the way we do it is we only hire people who come in here who we would actually want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with. There's a lot of people who come in for an interview, they've never been in the shop before, they don't know anything about coffee, and clearly that's not going to work out. And then we have people who come in and they are familiar with coffee and maybe a little bit with our shop. That's good, but if they come in and they have a great attitude, that is almost more important than anything else we do. And so we go through a lot of interviews. A lot of people come in, and pretty much when they come in and ask us if we're looking for people, it's that moment when they walk in the door we can tell whether or not they're gonna make it here or not. So how do I know I'm hiring the right people? So here's something that benefits me. I grew up in the corporate world, so I worked for Sony, I worked for Lockheed Martin, and I did hiring at both of those places. And I went through hundreds and hundreds of resumes with people, and their resumes would look fantastic. They would have all these certifications, they would have all this experience, and they would come in and you would open the door and say something like, "Hey, do you want a cup of coffee?" And they would completely freeze. They would just panic. And they didn't know, like it was a trick question. Do I take the cup of coffee? Do I not take the cup of coffee? Should I shake his hand? And what I really wanted to see when someone walked in the door was whether or not they could handle a situation. So I wasn't tricking them by asking them if they wanted coffee, I was actually asking them if they wanted coffee. But you could tell almost instantly, if they got that deer in the headlights look, they're not gonna handle it, because the job of a business is to make sure that when something goes to shit, that the staff is there to fix it. And if someone can't answer basic interview questions, if they're not personable during the interview, there's no way they're going to be personable when a bill collector walks in the door and says, "You got to cut me a check right now, I'm turning off your utility." And that's the kind of thing that's happened to us before. And people really have to take care of that. So, for me, what I learned was that it's the way a person interacts with you. It's the way that they share a bit of themselves in the interview. Because I can talk to a person all day long in an interview, and I've had this happen where people just sort of nod their head, and I'll say things like, "So tell me a little bit about this art degree that you have." And they'll say to me, "Well, I have a fine arts degree." Okay, I got that from the piece of paper, but tell me about art. And what I want to see is that a person is in there. I want to see that they're personable. I want to see that they're somebody I would like to spend time with. That's it. And if I can't get that in the first maybe 30, 40 seconds of the interview, I try and tease it out a little bit during the interview process. Just let them loosen up and try and be casual. But if a minute goes by and they're not personable to me, they're not going to be personable to the customer. So culture is vastly important to an independent coffee shop. I mean, what we do is all about culture. It's like by definition we exist because cultureless places like Starbucks set the price point, and then we have to come in and fill the void of what used to exist, that independent coffee shop where people could sit down, they could chat with each other. So for me, I feel like the store itself sets a lot of the tone of the culture. You walk into Gypsy, there's exposed brick walls, we don't have polished countertops, we don't have all the merchandising that someone like Starbucks does, but we have this handcrafted sort of rustic thing going on, and some people click with that right away. And so part of it for me, I'm lucky I'm able to do, is my corporate culture is literally on the walls here. The pictures on the walls behind me, the artwork that we have up, everything in this store is part of my culture, and people either clearly click with that or they're intimidated by that. And so that gives me an advantage, that when somebody comes in and I can see them looking around the space and say, I come in all the time and I love that computer on the wall, and I had that computer as a kid, I know that we found somebody who fits it. One of the things we do here is I always in an interview ask somebody if they want a cup of coffee. And if you're ever applying for a job in the coffee business and someone says, "Do you want a coffee?" the right answer is yes. And the very best thing you can do after that is sort of swish it around your mouth and go, "Oh, I love this coffee. That is what I'm looking for." But that's what we do to people. And often in the middle of an interview, a customer will come in and I'll jump up and I'll handle the customer in the middle of the interview. And I want to see what the reaction of that person is, because my culture is that the customer comes first. And so I want to make sure that the interviewee doesn't feel taken aback that I'm jumping up and helping the customer, because the culture in here is friendly, helpful, and knowledgeable. And that's what I want everybody to be. And we've taken people who've interviewed and just have them, come back and look around the space and start making coffee with us. But having it on your walls really makes having your corporate culture identifiable much easier. So, to the question about whether or not we can compete as small business owners with the bigger, sexier customers, I think personally it's absolutely a crock of bullshit that a small business can't compete with a large business. I've worked for the large businesses. I spent a really long time in corporate IT world, and everything about this job is better than that. Yeah, I don't have a 401k right now, and the government is making it incredibly difficult to even figure out healthcare for the small business owner. Sure, I can't compete with that. But people walk in the store and they feel comfortable in here. Some of my employees also work at Starbucks part-time, and they work at Starbucks part-time because at 20 hours you get benefits. But they're working their other 20 something hours over here, and that's because it's better over here. And it just is. And as a small business owner, you can do things that the corporate world can't do. You want to give people the ability to ride their bike to work? Awesome, let them ride their bike to work. You want people to go out in the middle of the day and go to a gym? Let them go to the gym. You don't need to clear it with the HR department. You don't need to go figure out if something that you do is going to comply with the guidelines of the Japanese home office. You really don't have to do that. So what you get in a small business is you get people who really care about the product, because a small business has got to focus on the product, and it's got to focus on the customer. And in the big world of the corporate world, that's often lost. When you're working on your TPS report at your desk and you don't know what it's going to go to, you can really lose sight of the product that you're working on. But in a small business, that's just not possible. And for people who care about it, for people who want to do something really meaningful with their life, there is nothing as rewarding as working in a small business. Yeah, so I know one of the big things is churn in the small business world. You hire a person, and 12 months they go by and they disappear. For somebody like me, that's a huge problem, because we do a lot of training. I think everyone gets somewhere, depending on how quick they pick up working on espresso, between 20 and 40 hours shadowing people and like actually just getting hands-on training. So for us to lose somebody after a year is difficult. So some advice: pay them as well as you can. 5 more cents an hour, 10 more cents an hour will probably really hurt the bottom line for a lot of small businesses, but the cost of training somebody over again and getting them back up to speed and losing the hours when you're bringing a new hire up to speed, that 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents an hour makes it worth it. Also, treat people like people. We go to dinners, we have movie nights, we do a lot of fun things here. That's a great thing as a small business. You can take everybody bowling in a small business and you pay like $80. If you were in a corporation, you want to take everybody bowling, I mean, what is it, like $80,000? So I think that when it comes to churn, people think really myopically. They think that if they spend more money now on payroll and on fun things to do with the staff, that they won't have that for the bottom line. But the big thing is, if you're spending money on a person and they disappear 6 months to a year, you've got to start from scratch, and it's just about as if you threw all that corporate information out the window. So treat people well. When they want to leave and they want to go back to college, that happens to us a lot. Have a going away party. Support them. Make sure that they can do that. And then when they come back, when they're on a break in college, have them come back and have them work here and welcome them back and have them part of the family. And that's a key. A small business is a family. And make sure that everybody who works for you is somebody you would want in your family. And we've all had family dinners on Thanksgiving. So there's some weirdos in the family, but treat everybody like family and they'll treat you like family too.